What's going on, everybody? Sorry, I'm a little bit late. Not by much, but just a little bit late. But I do see some people are right here in the chat. What's going on, Seychelles? He said, glad you decided to go live every Friday. Yeah, appreciate you. Jamal Bay, Queen of Spades, Darlene. Make sure if y'all have not done so already to share this stream with others. Because I bet you the notifications didn't go out. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I'm not sure. Gonna wait a little bit more and for more people to come in. Because I think that my notifications aren't working again, so, or at least properly, like they should. Yes, and also, yeah, most definitely make sure y'all hit that thumbs up button. Let me tell y'all something. The reason why it's so important that you hit that thumbs up button, that like button, is because it basically tells YouTube's algorithm that it's a popular stream or video, and that actually draws more eyes there. That's why I always say try to get the likes over 100. All right, appreciate you, Bishop. You said you got the notification. All right, cool. So some people did get the notification because like what it is like with YouTube, they'll send the notification to me as well, but they didn't send it to me. But the point of the matter is, as long as y'all got it, that's all that matters. What's going on? What's going on? Man, so much stuff happened this week that it's probably gonna it's more stuff that I'm gonna talk about in this video that happened this week, in this stream that happened this week than last week. And the thing is, I had to keep switching stuff in and out to to talk about because there was so much stuff that happened. And let me tell you right now, everything that I'm gonna talk about in this stream, I have not done a pre-recorded video for. So this is like all new content that's kind of steamrolled into one thing that I'm gonna talk about. Marie said, hello from the UK. Can't believe I caught the live. Well, welcome. Glad you are here. But before we actually get started, something crazy happened today. I guess you can say that I got a not a notification for, but I guess you can say a message for. So somebody that I know, they sent me a screenshot to my DM of somebody, I guess they had to be on Facebook, pretending to be me. Like they were using my name, but they had the picture wasn't of me, but it was my name, but they used a picture of Michael Jackson and tried to slide into this person's DM, the person that I know, on some simp-ish. When I saw that, I was like, did you report it? And they said, yeah, so hopefully they did. When I saw that, I said, I can't believe this. I said, someone is out there using my name to try to catfish somebody that I know. I appreciate you, BJ. I got the Cash App. Like they had my first and last name, but the picture that they used was of Michael Jackson. And the person DM'd me on Instagram and said, yeah, there's somebody on Facebook pretending to be you. And they sent me this DM. But the internet is full of interesting characters. I'll just put it like that. And they sent me that about a couple hours ago. We're gonna get into that, Ashton. But anyway, that was my little introduction. I always like to try to have a, I guess you can say, ice breaking story that leads and segues into whatever it is I'm about to discuss. But it is currently 4:15, so I want to get into the material. So y'all have heard the latest information involving George Floyd, right? The latest information, and it seems like there was a lot of information involving George Floyd. Let me see if I can pull the article up because I want to share the screen with you. Okay, if you haven't heard the latest information, I'm gonna show y'all what that's all about. Hold on. Okay, so y'all can see it right here. Right here. It says co-worker of George Floyd, an ex-cop or ex-terrorist, I should say. Because remember, around here we ain't calling him no cop. We calling him by his proper name. Walks back claim that two bumped heads at nightclub. Now there was a person who worked with Derek Chauvin. That worked with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin at one point, because you remember there was a story that came out that they worked together at some club as security. And they said they worked together for 17 years. And then when I first heard about that, I said, now it's starting to creep into that territory right there. I was like, okay, I see where this is headed. Then it came out that, well, the person who revealed this information said that they would bump heads often. I was like, oh, now it's starting to sound more like it could have been premeditated, because it sounds like, they had a history with each other. And then he came out with that information, like the coworker, and now he has backpedaled what he said, and did it very quickly too, because he just gave the information saying that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin had a history where they clashed with each other. And then maybe a day or two later, he comes back and saying, well, I got the two mixed up. It was another African American male. I don't believe it. And like those of you who have already written in the chat had suggested, I believe that they got to him. I don't know if they got to him monetary wise, or if they got to him like, we'll make you quote unquote disappear wise. But I'm gonna go off of what he first said. That's what I'm gonna go off first. That's what I'm gonna go off, in my opinion, with first. That was George Floyd and Derek Chauvin constantly going at it. Because now that he has said that, he's basically locked himself in for sure that he's most likely going to have to testify when the trial comes around. And my thing is, why would you say all of that stuff by yourself without a lawyer present or an attorney present if you wasn't sure that was him? What made you come out to the world and say that if you weren't sure that was him? Because you sounded very sure in the confessional. So something is very off about that, but we definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that one, because he switched up real quick. But it was something else that occurred with this case as well. Let me see if I can pull that up. And make sure y'all hit that like button if you haven't done so already. This piece of information right here. George Floyd, rookie cop, used crowdfunding to pay $750,000 bail. And this is Thomas Lane right here. This is the one right here that he came out and claimed that he told Derek Chauvin that he believed that George Floyd was dead, he was unconscious, and he needed to get up off of his neck. And when Derek Chauvin, quote unquote, ignored him, and he kept his knee onto his neck. This is the guy right here. And remember when I had mentioned that before, and I said that by him saying that he's already now locked himself in to be for sure testifying on that stand. I was actually having a discussion with someone. I said, how many witnesses do you think they're gonna call to that stand? I said a lot, because you got to think they're gonna put the store owner on the stand, the one who called them. They're gonna put the person who recorded the incident on the stand. They're gonna put those witnesses who were there on the stand. They're going to put him on the stand. They're most likely put Derek Chauvin's wife on the stand. They're most likely going to put George Floyd's family on the stand, maybe like his brother or something like that. So I'm predicting this is going to be a pretty lengthy trial. That's why I said I think this thing might eclipse OJ for trial of the century. Right, Craig. He said that his attorney, and his attorney just sounds like he just got his degree from Trump University. If you heard that man talk, he said he blames the bystanders for not intervening. Now you say that, but any other time it would have been something different. Because if they would have jumped in, then it would have been a whole nother story. Now you say, oh, they should have intervened. What's going on, Art? You said it wasn't the store owner, but it was an employee. So it was the employee that made that call. Let's see. Any other time they'd be on trial, right or wrong, along with George Floyd, which is what they're going to do to him in that trial. Exactly. And see, the thing is, that lawyer, that's a setup question. Because see, what would happen is if those bystanders didn't have a projectile weapon like another gun, and against those individuals who did have them, then that would have been more bodies that would have hit the floor that day. Yeah, like I said, this trial, I'm already predicting it. This trial is going to be very, very, very interesting. This thing is going to have more eyes on it than George Zimmerman's trial, Amber Geiger's trial, OJ's trial. A lot of these trials are going to have more eyes on it because the world is watching. The whole world witnessed this atrocity occur in real time. That's why I said this thing is going to have a lot of eyes on it. And they better hope that this goes the way that it should go, or I'm gonna just leave it at that. Y'all can fill in the blank. But now that we have taken care of that, I'm going to go ahead and segue into my next topic. And this one right here, I don't know if many of you heard about this one, but it didn't get that much press because of the timing. Like I said, a lot of stuff that's going on involving George Floyd pretty much took over all of the, all of the, I guess you say all the attention, all the stuff that's going on. George Floyd pretty much has consumed all of it. Let me see if I can pull this up. So many ads keep popping up on me. Let's see. Okay, let me use this. Hopefully this works. Okay, who is familiar with the story of a man by the name of Manuel Ellis? Put a 1 in the chat if you're familiar with the story about a man by the name of Manuel Ellis. You see his picture right here on the screen. Okay, Megan Montana says 1. Craig J said, I am. Okay, I see a lot of 1s. Okay. Okay. So many of you are familiar with this story. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised that you are, because like I said, with all the stuff going on with George Floyd, there's is not enough room for a lot of stuff to kind of slide themselves in there unless you catch it, because they might mention it one time and that's it. But to paint a picture for you, basically what happened with this guy Manuel Ellis is that, and this happened in Washington, by the way, he was pulled over by the terrorists. Let's just get in the habit of calling them that. He was pulled over by the terrorists for whatever reason. And this happened March 3rd, y'all. This happened March 3rd. So you're talking about this happened shortly after Ahmaud Arbery and shortly before Brianna Taylor, and about over 2 months before George Floyd. And we're just now learning about it. Just like what happened with Brianna Taylor and how that happened, and we didn't hear about it until last month. And with Ahmaud Arbery, we didn't hear about that either until the video got released last month as well. See, what was interesting about the George Floyd situation is that it's starting to unearth a lot of atrocities that are happening to Black people that may have been caught on film or dash cam footage or body cam footage that we didn't even know existed. But it's happening months ago. It's still recent, but it's not recent as in something that happened, say, last week or yesterday. But anyway, what happened with this guy is he was driving, he got pulled over, and he pretty much got harassed physically by the terrorists, and they pretty much pulled him out of his vehicle and started beating on him. And guess what excuse they came up with why they beat him? Because he allegedly body slammed one of the cops. You heard that correctly. He allegedly body slammed one of the cops. I said to myself, they could have came up with a way better lie than that. Because if anybody had got body slammed, there would have been cuts and scrapes and bruises on that person's body, or fractured bones because they got body slammed on concrete. But imagine being beat to death by like 3 or 4 terrorists. I'm talking about they're using their batons, they're using their feet, they're using their hands all at one time, and it's dark outside. So you have trouble even seeing because your vision isn't that good at night. It's not like you're a cat. You only have, I think the only light he had was maybe 1 or 2 street lights. If those street lights weren't working, he would have got beat in the dark and we wouldn't even be able to see it. That's how bad the visibility was. Appreciate you, Mark Stu. He says, hey, Torian, what's going on? And I actually just found out about this story the other day. And the way that I found out was when I just happened to be sitting down watching TV and his mother and his sister were being interviewed on CNN. That's how I found out about it. And here I am thinking that this happened very recently and shocked to find out it happened at the beginning of March. And we're just now learning about it in June. Just like with Ahmaud Arbery, that happened at the end of February and we found out in May. Brianna Taylor, that happened on the 13th of March and we're just finding out in May. George Floyd was the only incident that has happened recently that we knew of right when it happened because of footage being put out there that we could see right then and there. But yeah, they beat this man to death. I couldn't even imagine that kind of pain and that kind of torture of being beat to death has to be one of the most worst forms of torture because it's literally a slow, painful death. Because you got to imagine how hard those hits got to be to hit certain pressure points in your body, and parts of your body is shutting down on you from getting hit hard in those areas. Appreciate you, Sean, from the shot. She says, we are not going to stop nephew. Exactly. So I can imagine that kind of pain and that kind of torture that this man went through. And looking at the video, I would not be surprised if they kept beating on him after he was dead. Because they was going in on him. I can't even bring myself to play the footage on here. If y'all want to go watch it, then I'm sure you just go type his name into the search bar of YouTube, and I'm very sure that the dash cam footage will pop up. But definitely, rest in peace to this man. Condolences to his family. Hopefully they can get something out of this because it's just absolutely ridiculous. It is. I mean, it's just crazy. But I think what's so crazy is that they will form any type of story that they can, form any narrative that they want, and claim that what they're telling us is supposed to be real. Now, the next story I'm gonna bring up, I'm kind of upset at myself for not doing a story about this when it the first originally occurred. But let me see if I can find a picture of this person. And this is a story that many of us had already heard about. But let me see if I can find a let me see if I can find an image of her. All right, I'll use this one. But it's a classic case of be careful who you trust. All right, who remembers the Tamela Horsford story? Who remembers the Tamela Horsford story? Appreciate you, that guy from Texas. Who remembers the Tamela Horsford story? This is her picture right here. All right. Well, this is Tamela Horsford that you see right here in this picture. And back in 2018, this woman went to some kind of a sleepover or something like that. I think it was like a sleepover or some kind of like a grown woman's slumber party type of thing. Appreciate you, Mega Montana says we still protesting in NYC. We not letting up. That's good. They not letting up around the world. They already. This is like the ending of week 3. They're segueing into week 4, and y'all already know it's about to come next week. But I'm not going to talk about that until next Friday's live stream. I'm saving my energy for what's happening next Friday for next Friday. But basically, what happened with this woman is that she went to this, I guess you can say, this adult style slumber party, and mind you, she was the only Black woman there. As far as I know, she was the only Black person there. As far as I know, she was the only Black person there. As a matter of fact, let me pull up this picture right here. It'll give you more better context. That's her right there in the green, and right here on the left, I mean on the right, is her with all the other PC women that were there. So, you think that maybe, oh, it's just a typical girls' night in, I guess you can say, and everything like that. But it apparently was anything but. Who would have thought that the last time the last time that her family, her children, and her husband would see her would be that day, and that the next day they had to find out horrible news that their mother and wife is dead, and they don't know how it happened. So basically, what happened was the next day they found Tamela's deceased body, I believe, outside. I believe they found her body outside. And her body had bruises on it, indicating that she was beaten to death or beaten in some way, form, or fashion. She had hands put on her. Now, there's also speculation that there wasn't just women at this event, that some men had came over. And then the details about this whole case is so fuzzy. But notice, like I said, she was the only Black woman there and the only person to come up dead. And the thing that makes it weird is because the story just kind of went cold. They just kind of talked about it, and then they really didn't do anything about it. I'm like, you mean to tell me y'all are not even going to attempt to investigate this? Y'all just going to let it just fall by the wayside? I'm like, who goes over to something like this and they just end up dead? And then when they found her body had bruises on it. Appreciate you, real. But the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because they have decided to reopen the case. They closed it. They closed this case. Like, they allowed this case to go cold very fast. I don't even know what they even labeled the cause of death as, but I bet you it was something that it wasn't. But they have now recently reopened the case. And usually if they reopen a case, that means that there has to be new evidence that has come forward for a reason as to why they have reopened it. Because the whole story just doesn't make any sense. I truly believe that the women at that party, or that whatever, and the men that came over had something to do with her death. I mean, come on, like, it doesn't take a rocket science to, figure this out. It really doesn't. But hopefully, with whatever new evidence that has come forward from this, they can actually go forth and actually prosecuting and convicting the individuals who was responsible. I mean, come on, like I said, it doesn't take a rocket science. She's the only one that's dead in a house full of other women. Like, they must think we some fools out here. But let me I'm just reading some of these comments. He said she was in Forsyth County, Georgia. That sounds like a place that's extremely pale. Capricorn girl said no pictures were taken at her autopsy, and that's a practice unheard of. Yeah, they're covering up something. They killed that woman. You can't tell me that they didn't. They did something to her. But let me go ahead and move to the next one. Now, this one, many of you have been wanting me to talk about for quite some time, and we are finally going to discuss it today. And I purposely saved this story for this stream. Terry Crews, or as I call him, Terry Loose Screws Crews, in this so-called Black supremacy statement that he made on Twitter a few days ago. If we didn't think Terry Crews was on the deep end before, we definitely understand it and see it now. So in case y'all been living under a rock, and I'm assuming that none of you have been, Terry Crews got on the Twitter and decided to make this statement, basically talking about, let me see if I can actually find what he actually said. Let me he says it was a tweet about quote unquote Black supremacy taking over white supremacy. In layman's terms, he basically said that if white supremacy was to fall or to topple, it will be replaced by Black supremacy. First off, Terry Crews, I'm sure many have told you this, but Black supremacy is never and could never be a thing. Because in order for you to have the supremacy in the statements that, in the context that it is used, we would have to have some kind of financial power, some type of political power, some type of military power. Three things that we currently do not have. We do not have the power to kick anyone out of their job, or we don't have any power to control anyone's income, or to say how people are supposed to move and all types of stuff like that. So I don't know where he came up with this notion with this Black supremacy thing. Now, unfortunately, you have some brain dead Negroes that were talking about, well, we hear Black people say how much better they are than white people all the time. So in my opinion, that means supremacy to me. I'm gonna need y'all to go a little bit deeper because y'all are scraping the surface. There's a difference between prejudice and racism. And many people try to intertwine those things as one, and they are not. It's funny because Terry Crews is the type of guy that will have all the smoke in the world for Black people, but he will keep his mouth shut around PC people. This is the same guy where a palm-colored exec grabbed his balls, grabbed a handful of his nuts while his wife was present, and he didn't do a thing. But when it comes to talking about, also when he tried to talk to Me Too, them heifers practically slammed the door in his face, even after he tried to go to Congress with it. And we was actually on Terry Crews' side because he was like, look, the guy has a story to tell and y'all are ignoring him. Because one, he's a guy, and two, he's black. And then, of course, he has this muscle mass. So they was like, why didn't you just fight him off? That was kind of a running joke. Like, you got this muscle mass and you didn't just knock him, knock him off his feet. Why'd you just like let him slide with that? But then when you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, where did all of this vitriol for black people come from? Like, what? Like, where's that coming from? It's like, I don't know what it is, like a psychological disconnect when it comes to people like Terry Crews, who has an issue with some other group, but then they take it out on us because they feel we're the softer target. Because for years, we have been the target by a certain community, a certain group. So they feel that it's okay just to come at our neck. But that black supremacy statement made absolutely no sense. I don't know. He was reaching for straw. He was grasping for all types of straws with that statement. And I think he basically said that he wasn't going to apologize. Well, Terry, we don't expect you to apologize. You know why? Because with all the apologies in the world, it can't backpedal what you said. Like they say it with your chest, and that's exactly what you did. So it is what it is, but it doesn't surprise us that came out of your mouth because it's who you are. That's who we've come to know you to be. It's crazy because what's also odd about that comment is that, look, it doesn't surprise me, is that you have a lot of PC people who will applaud that because they want so-called black supremacy to be a thing as well, so they can have a reason to say, see, white supremacy isn't a thing. They only agree with people like Terry Crews when they say something that will back them up with how they treat us or how they talk about us. But yeah, Terry Crews is a bit of a disappointment. Notice I said a bit of and not a complete disappointment, but a bit of. I take that back. He is a complete disappointment. And then when you see how he acts around certain people, like I still can't get that image out of my head when he was on the New York Stock Exchange a few years ago when they was promoting that movie, The Expendables. You had all the cast there wearing a suit and everything like that. He wants to be up there ripping his shirt off like he about to turn into the Incredible Hulk and start screaming all over the daggone place. I'm like, he must enjoy being a walking stereotype. But yeah, Terry Crews, in case no one has told you, black supremacy is not a thing. If you didn't hear it before, and I find that hard to believe because they went in on him. They went in on him on his Twitter account. But if you didn't hear it, if you decide to block out all that noise, if you happen to watch and listen now, black supremacy is not and will never be a thing. Let me see what some of y'all are saying in these comments. Hood Mistress says a regular new millennium step and fetch it. Ashton says someone paid him. Well, here's the thing, Ashton. Some of these individuals out here don't even have to get paid to do what they do. They just enjoy doing it for the free. Like they said, art imitating life. This is just who Terry Crews is. I'm convinced. This is just who he is. Oh, I can't wait to get on this one. All right. The next topic we are going to discuss is a multitude of stories, but it's all falling under the category of one word, and that word is pandering. And I mean pandering hard. Now I know many of you. Oh, hold on. Shout out to Kanan Maluwe. I'm probably mispronouncing your name, but appreciate you. But yeah, this imagery right here. Oh my goodness. Talk about complete and utter shameful. Do y'all see this? Do y'all see this on your screen? Do y'all see this crap on your screen? And you want to know what's so crazy? I typed in the search bar on the Google Images kente cloth, and this is the third image that popped up. This is the third image that popped up. So in this picture, you have Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other Democrats kneeling. And they did it for, what was it? They knelt for like 8 minutes and some change. What was supposed to be the amount of time that Derek Chauvin had his knee in George Floyd's neck. And they decided to kneel down in quote unquote silence while wearing kente cloth. I looked at this and I was like, are they serious right now? Are we supposed to be flattered by this? This is one reason why many people like that can't be taken seriously. They think that doing something like this is supposed to move us, that we're supposed to be easily moved by this. I'm not moved by this. And someone else had mentioned before, if you wanted to make it seem like you were honoring George Floyd, you could have, I don't know, laid on the floor, since that was the last position that George Floyd was in while he was alive. But you decided to kneel and be in the position of the one who killed him. I mean, the tone deafness of it all. Like, I don't know what they were trying to exactly prove here. And I bet you that kente cloth probably wasn't even black, created by a black person. It was probably somewhere made in China somewhere. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, Art. Now, when Colin Kaepernick kneeled in protest a few years ago, and I talked about this in a previous video, he got so much backlash from all walks of life for what he did. Now, apparently, it is okay for you to kneel. I've seen this. I've seen another image where you've had these other cops kneeling. They was outside in the streets kneeling, and maybe some other things as well. But now apparently it's okay to kneel. It's okay now. Y'all missed your opportunity. I will say this though: the funniest part from the video itself of them kneeling was at the end of their 8-minute and 46-second transaction. Nancy Pelosi, old wrinkly self, needed help getting up. I will say that I laughed so hard when she had to have help getting up, because she knew that them knees was giving out on her after kneeling for almost 10 minutes. She almost fell back, and a lady had to go out there and help her up because she couldn't stand. That was probably the funniest thing about the whole situation. But yeah, this is absolutely shameful right here. Like they can miss me with that. And while we're on the topic of pandering, let's talk about this other individual right here who I've been had a problem with. Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell. Michelle A., I don't know whose idea that it was, probably hers. But like I said, that's the tone deafness of everything that comes from the Democrats, as I call them. Now, don't get it twisted. To all the people out there who's probably listening who are right leaning, that's not me giving you a one up, because I don't like you either. Just have to throw in that disclaimer, because many would think, oh, you don't like the quote unquote left. That means we got them on the right. That don't mean that. So get it out your head, far out of your head. Now, on to another person who was pandering, and this one was very recent, which Roger Goodell did. Like, we already know what he has done so far, as him now, quote unquote, apologizing to the people without actually apologizing to the person in which he was supposed to apologize to. But in case y'all have not heard, the NFL has now decided to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday. How many of y'all heard that? How many of y'all heard that? Put a one in the chat if y'all heard that. I know this was very recent. I think it came out like 2 days ago. But the NFL has decided to recognize Juneteenth as a national holiday. And I bet you it was Roger Goodell's idea. Now, Juneteenth, that day has been around forever. Forever. But it took the murder of a black man on camera for you to recognize it as a holiday. Now, I will say this. There are some black people out there who unfortunately did not know or do not know what Juneteenth is. And that's mainly because, that's been buried and hidden from our history. But now you have the NFL saying that they're going to recognize it as a national holiday. So what does that mean? You just get a day off from work? It's basically what you're saying. Like I said, this is all pandering tactics. This is all pandering tactics. Like saying, oh, see, we recognize your day. We recognize that you have a day, and we're going to give that to you. But if they wait until a tragedy like this happens to actually do it. To be quite honest, I've been acknowledging Juneteenth way before now that they now officially acknowledge it as a holiday. But you know what? You want to know who they're not going to acknowledge as a holiday? Christopher Dorner, Malcolm X, Michael Johnson, and Gavin Long. And Gavin Long and Michael Johnson are 2 days. Those 2 days are actually coming up next month, and they're actually very, very close to each other. And I wouldn't, you know how I said, I'm glad, it's interesting, K-Bot, that you said that. I take back what I said. I bet you Roger Goodell did not come up with this. Somebody out there probably told him to do this. Ms. Garcia, they think bottles of hot sauce, dapping, kente cloth, other empty gestures, BS will help us, will move us. Nope. Show us the reparations and make ADOS a protected class. Yeah, I remember that stunt that Hillary Clinton pulled when she was running back in 2016, talking about she carrying hot sauce in her swag bag. When they do pandering like this, they're basically showing us how low they think of us. And let me show you another one right here where that I saw. Hopefully the picture comes up. Look at this one right here. This is another thing that caught me completely off guard. How many of y'all are aware of this one? It says white officers wash black pastor's feet after walk for George Floyd. You have palm-colored cops washing black people's feet out there in the open. First off, I would not be washing anybody's feet, period. Unless I was getting a hefty amount of money to do so. I'm not going to willingly go up there and do that. See, like many of y'all saying in the chat, when y'all saying cut the check, that's the pandering that they're doing is for them to try to smooth us over so we will not talk about the cutting of the check. Because they are hoping that we bend easily, but they're dealing with a different crop of people right now. They're dealing with a different mindset right now. If this was maybe 10 years ago, they would probably won us over. But they're looking and seeing now that it's not as easy as they thought it would be. But when I saw this picture right here, I said, oh, please. Really? That's not moving us either. Why are you washing someone else's feet? Okay. You want to know what's so crazy? Some of the people out there washing their feet probably don't even wash their own body. I've heard them stories about them saying how white people. Now I'm not gonna say all of them, but a lot of them be taking like 1 or 2 showers a week. But you want to wash someone else's feet. It's crazy. It really is. Let me get off of this pandering nonsense and move on to the next story. Let me see what I got next up in the lineup. This one I'm gonna have to. This next one I'm gonna pull up. This is gonna be a video style ad address, I guess you can call it. So let me go ahead and try to pull up YouTube right quick so y'all can see what I'm about to talk about. Okay, so looking at this, y'all already know what I'm about to play for y'all. Who saw that video of that police union head, whoever he is? I'm not sure who he is. Going out there getting all upset. I don't know if True Royal Family is in here, but she actually did a video about this a couple of days ago. I thought it was so hilarious to me. I'm gonna go ahead and let the video play for y'all just in case y'all didn't hear it. Oh, y'all said it was no sound? All right, hold on. All right, let me try it like this. I'm gonna have to bootleg this thing. I don't know why no sound was coming out of it.
300 interactions with the public every year. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive responses. Overwhelmingly positive responses. But I read in the papers all week, we all read in the papers, that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. But you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and thugs and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive. Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not what we do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying us. Well, you know what, guys? I'm proud to be a cop. And I'm going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say.
Does anybody want to pull out the world's tiniest violin except me? Besides me. Besides me. Does anybody? And yes, that guy in the background does look like Henry Winkler, aka Fonzie from Happy Days. He does look like him. I would play his piece, but his piece is almost 10 minutes long, and to be honest, I don't feel like hearing any more whining. I swear they did more whining than Keith Sweat could do in any of his songs. But this is literally the epitome of the pot calling the kettle black. He says, stop treating us like animals and thugs and criminals. Well, to this Mike O'Mara guy and anyone else who feels like him, you can go, then we can treat this like the DMV. You can take a number and get in line, because the same things that you're being upset that you're being called, animals, thugs, criminals, is the same thing we in the black community have been called for years, for decades, for maybe well over a century. God knows we've been treated as such, going back to antebellum slavery. It's in the Constitution, 3/5 of a human being. This is the same NYPD that had stop and frisk put on the books. NYPD is one of the most corrupt police departments in America. I've said that so many times. Them, the Chicago PD, the LAPD, the Baltimore PD, and it's a toss-up for number 5. But those right there, but the NYPD for sure. What he's mad at is that the powder keg has been exploded, and now all of their stuff is being put out there for global consumption. No, I did not see that video, Brother Danubian, but I'm not shocked by the outcome of it either, based on your description. And then he started throwing out all the stats that's been going on with the cops that have occurred, over the last time. What he did was, I know what he was doing. He was basically saying that it's more of us dying than it is of them. He was doing that tit for tat type of thing, or that us versus them type of thing. But it's not our fault y'all have a bad reputation. Appreciate you, Happy Go Lucky. It's not our fault y'all have a bad reputation with the people. And now it's being exposed to the world. He said the Fonzie looking dude is the president of the New York City Police Benevolent Association. His last name is Lynch. And his first name is Patrick. Interesting. So he could keep all, as far as I'm concerned, he can keep all those little theatrics to himself. Nobody cares. It's just that now we've been seeing them for who they are. But for those who have been blinded by their antics, now they see it for what it is. And see, what it really boils down to is these cops are losing. It's one thing when they don't have the backing of us. That's one thing. They could care about if we give them support or not. What they don't like is they are losing the support of the people that usually rallies behind their crap, which is usually those who look like the majority of the guys in this picture. They could care less how we feel. Really, they could care less how we feel. But when they lose the support of the PC community, even at a fraction, that's where the problem kicks in. Oh, well, it is what it is. I'm sure if they, and the thing is, the way this guy's talking, he's making it seem like the NYPD is not deserving of these labels. I'm like, have you seen the last few cases over the years, in the last 20 years, in which the NYPD has done some really messed up things? I mean, look at what they did to Sean Bell. Loaded that man's body with bullets on the night before he was supposed to get married. Eric Garner put him in an illegal chokehold, suffocating him. Akai Gurley killed in a stairwell. Amadou Diallo. Need I keep going? In all the cases that I mentioned, there was no reprimand for any of those terrorists, and all of them work for the NYPD. But you're mad because you're getting that label of animals, thugs, and criminals. The same label that you've been giving to us. See, the thing is, they don't feel that they are deserving of those titles. But truth be told, many of them are. And I wouldn't be surprised just by his tone, this Michael Mara, I can tell by his tone, he's probably done some things that will give him that title as well. That's nothing but projection. And see, that's when you have to be extra careful. You hear his tone and how mad he is. I wouldn't be surprised if he was willing to take that out on some innocent bystander. Look at what they did up in Buffalo, New York, to that 75-year-old white man. Now, that's a different department, but it's still in New York. And see what they did to him. And that was caught on camera as well. And he made this statement. He made this statement after that event occurred. Pushed that 75-year-old man to the ground, caused him to bleed out of his ears and out of his head. And what does he do a couple of days later, or maybe a week later? We're not animals and thugs and criminals. Stop calling us that. I couldn't tell. I mean, you're not exactly a saint. So what do you want us to call you? Like I said, this whole thing has exposed a lot. That's why I said everything that's going on right now is bigger than George Floyd. This is a culmination of things that it was a buildup. It was a buildup of things that led to this. But let me go ahead and move off of this guy and go to the next one because I have more stuff I got to discuss besides this individual. Let's see what else I got up on here. Okay, hold on. Okay, now this is a topic right here that many of you have been wanting me to talk about, and is a reason why I waited to today to talk about it, because I wanted to do it in a live stream and not in a pre-recorded video. And that was the topic of the defunding the police. I don't have to ask if any of y'all have heard about it because it's a major topic that's going on right now, and I don't think I've given my take on it. So there is basically a national discussion going on right now where they are talking about defunding police departments around the establishment. I can pretty much pinpoint which ones they definitely need to start with. Definitely start with that one from the previous video, the NYPD. But let me go into what the defunding actually means, because a lot of people have it misconstrued. They think that defunding the police means they're going to abolish the police altogether. No, that's not what it means. It's not talking about the abolishment of the police. Abolishing the police means to get rid of the police altogether, and you pretty much self-govern your own communities. And to be honest, I don't think many Black people are ready to do that. I'm just being honest. I don't think many Black people are ready to do that just yet, or not at that point just yet as a collective. But defunding the police just basically means they are going to reallocate a lot of the funds into other arenas and not put so much funding into these departments to get a lot of the things that they have. I know one of the things that they talked about was they wanted to get military style weapons out of the hands of the police, which I completely and wholeheartedly agree with, because I do not believe that law enforcement should be walking around here with AK-47s and AR-15s like they did 2 tours in Iraq. And I guess you can say that this is almost like a punishment thing too. And man, are those police unions and departments are upset about this. Because this defunding of the police is more than just taking the money out of the departments. They're losing their power, slowly but surely. They're losing their power. That's why I said this whole thing is bigger than George Floyd. Yes, he set it off, but it's bigger than him. This is a buildup of years, a culmination of things. But a lot of the stuff that goes into these police departments, that's what they're taking away. They're not going to completely bankrupt them to the point where they get no funds, but they're taking chunks of money out and reallocating it in other locations. Basically, a lot of these departments are getting unnecessary funds to fund unnecessary things. I would almost say that now those body cameras are almost unnecessary because even when they have them on, they don't even use them. Like when it comes to evidence and stuff like that, they don't ever like pay attention or try to use them. Or they half the time, the cops barely have them on. That's unnecessary money at the end of the day because even though they're required to wear them, a lot of the time some departments don't even require them to wear them. Or if they have them on, they'll tamper with it. They'll turn it off or they'll turn the sound off or do something with it. Good point, Miss Cardio Queen. She says also would take away the power of the union, stop using taxpayers' dollars to pay out wrongful death suits. That I definitely agree with. I'm glad you said that. Because every time there is an incident, like with a George Floyd or a Brianna Taylor or anybody who has been the victim of police brutality, in which resulted in death, that money that gets paid to the family, like if it's a settlement, it comes out of the taxpayers' pockets, meaning you and I are paying their settlement. That's not coming from the police departments, in which I wholeheartedly believe it should come from them. That I do, Miss Cardio Queen, I'm glad you said that. That money needs to come from them because they are the ones that committed the act, or they are the ones responsible for the person who committed the act. And see, that's why they keep getting away with it, because they know they're not going to have to pay that settlement. They know it's coming out of our pocket. And what's crazy is because they are a civil servant, we also pay their check as well. So they're basically double dipping. They get money from us and they get money from us again when they commit an act like that. So yes, I do believe that any kind of settlement they have to pay to the family of the deceased should come directly from that department. I bet you they'll slow it down then, because that's a lot of money. Those settlements are not cheap at all. These are not some low ball payments. When you hit them in them pockets and hit them funds, they'll learn. People will learn. But as long as we're paying it, they're not going to learn. They're going to keep doing it. That's why they keep doing it, because they know they don't have to pay the price. I'm glad you said that, Khadijah. I completely forgot about that. I should have talked about that when I was talking about the George Floyd update. In case y'all didn't hear, and this actually came out today, Derek Chauvin, the terrorist, Derek the Devil, he still has access to his pension. Basically, what they were saying is he's 44 years of age now. And when he turns 55, which is in 11 years, in 2000, well, I don't know if he just turned 44 or not, but let's just say 2031, his pension activates, and his pension is, I think they said $50,000 a year, I believe. And by the time his pension is up, it's going to equal out to $1 million. And they basically were asking, well, how does he still have access to his pension even after he clearly murdered someone? And they basically said it was some BS, it was some crap. But in layman's terms, it was just saying that they could be, even with him doing what he did, they couldn't break the contract of his pension. I forgot what it was, but it was some crap. Let's just put it this way: if George Floyd was the one who killed Derek Chauvin, they would have found a way to not give him his pension. So that's basically what it equals out to me. As far as him being sued for it, I'm not entirely sure. That can be something that they can look for. That's something they can be looked at. But I think that if it comes to a lawsuit for the pension, they would have to first find him guilty in which he has been charged with now. So they're going to have to go through the trial now with what he's been charged with, find him guilty of that, and then see if they can go after the pension. Because if they wasn't to find him guilty, which they better not find him not guilty, but let's hypothetically say he was to walk away from this, then going after his pension would be pointless. So that we're going to have to see what comes from the trial. Right, 265 girl. She said, that's another bill I want to see change. Anytime they commit a crime against us, along with automatic prison sentence, strip away their pension. I agree. I don't care if the pension is activated or not. What happened to Tucker, darling? What happened to Tucker Carlson? What is this I'm hearing, that he lost his endorsements? Because if that's the case, you already know what's about to happen. Can someone confirm that for me? That's what someone else said, Melanin 100%, that the money should go to his kids. Oh, he lost 4 advertisers? Hopefully they were 4 major advertisers. I can imagine the look on his face. He probably got that typical deer in the headlights looking face that he always has. But I'm gonna look into that though. I'm gonna talk. That might be a you know what type of video. But I need to look into that a little bit more, so I can see what advertisers he lost. Jalil Manson said, did you see what Janet Mock said on Twitter? No, I did not see what Janet Mockery said on Twitter. I swear that person has the perfect name, but I'm not going to get into that. You said Lisa Bird did a story. Okay. He said Disney was one. Oh, Disney, that's a major one. That's a major one right there. Okay, I'll check into it. I'll look into it. I'll look at Lisa's video, and then I'll most likely will give my take on it. Disney and T-Mobile. Well, that's not good. But hey, it is what it is. Tucker Carlson's been spewing all types of crap for years. So hey, it is what it is. But now I want to move on to another story that just came out today, or at least in the last day. And that is Brianna Taylor. In case y'all have not heard, they have now officially made a law called the Brianna Taylor Law, or the Brianna's Law. And basically that law will ban no-knock warrants. How many of you have heard that? How many of y'all heard that right there about the Brianna's Law and what it entails? It says banning no-knock warrants. Miss Cardio Queen said, why is Disney supporting Tucker Carlson? Well, Rap God answered it for you. Fox is owned by Disney. That includes, I believe, Fox News. So there you go. But yeah, the Brianna law is basically a law that's going to ban no-knock warrants, which basically means that they have to acknowledge that they are there with a warrant in hand, and they just cannot kick the door in or knock it down. They actually have to acknowledge they are there at the door and that they knocked before coming in. They just can't steamroll their way into a house. I said that sounds all good and well and whatnot. Yeah, it passed, Miss Garcia. That sounds all good and well. However, they still have not criminally charged the 3 terrorists that are involved with her murder. I mean, this law sounds all good and well and everything, but they still have not charged the 3 that were involved. Where are the charges? They haven't even arrested them. They never got charged. They were never arrested. They never even lost their job. They got administrative reassignment. They got administrative reassignment, which means they just got reassigned to another location while sitting at a desk and still collecting the check. That's basically what Daniel Pantaleo got after he murdered Eric Garner. Because for a while, we didn't know that he was still working. That man was still working for the NYPD, the same place that Michael Merrick claims we don't need to be called thugs and animals or criminals, after he choked Eric Garner to death. And he didn't get fired until last year. And they got mad about that. They basically did. We know how you had those 2 pigs who pushed that white guy down in Buffalo, and they was outside clapping. And the 57 that walked out and resigned. That's basically what they were doing with Daniel Pantaleo, except they didn't resign. They were just mad. Y'all can't tell me that institutions like the NYPD don't operate like a gang. Yet they charge and arrest and put in jail her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, for quote unquote attempted murder. That's who they decide to lock up. Oh, not even just that, Miss Garcia, but something else also recently came out too, outside of Brianna Taylor. Now they have something in New York. I don't know if y'all heard, called the Eric Garner anti-chokehold bill or law or something like that. I said, so wait a minute. Eric Garner got choked to death by Daniel Pantaleo back in 2014, and y'all are just now putting an anti-chokehold bill and or law on the books 6 years later. Mind you, the chokehold that Daniel Pantaleo put Eric Garner in was already an illegal one and had been illegal since the 90s. So technically, it should have been on the books as a bill or a law, which means Daniel Pantaleo should have lost his job and should have been in jail. But they never even went to trial. There was never a trial against Daniel Pantaleo. Quasi, actually, they're saying allegedly that Kenneth Walker shot one of the cops in the leg. That's where the whole attempted murder charge came from. But yeah, that chokehold that was done to him is already illegal. So why do you need an anti-chokehold law bill now? And speaking of other laws that they trying to put on the books that for some reason they just can't get it to that Florida Senate, is that one, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill law. the one I think that was a Cory Booker and Kamala Harris that came up with, but because the reason why it's not getting to the Senate floor is because Rand Paul is blocking it from getting there. Black Rage, they make up stuff as they go along. You know, they don't stay consistent. And when they make up stuff, it's usually against our benefit. Rand Paul is from Kentucky. Figures. The same state in which this happened in. No, they didn't call it friendly fire, Alana. They called it attempted murder. It was alleged also that the bullet could have came from one of the terrorists as well. I said, why don't they just examine the bullet and see what gun it came from? Simple as that. But yeah, we're gonna be keeping our eye on this one. But I'm just saying, like, they can come up with this law all they want, but it's not. See, this is another thing right here that can go under the category of pandering. They do stuff like this and hope that it smooths us over. That way, we will stop talking about it. But like I said, people are not gonna stop talking about it. You wanna know what's so crazy? Even after all this crazy stuff that has been going on, they still are choosing to act out in the way that they do. And by they, I'm talking about the police. I've heard stories where they are still hemming people up, still attacking black folks, even still now. Like I said, they will never learn. And now they're really going to ramp it up because they feel that they're on edge. They feel like their back is pushed against the wall and that the whole world is against them right now. So they are in panic mode right now. And like I've always said, when you're in panic mode, you will do anything. But let me go on to the next story. Now, this one right here, when I saw this, I could have easily made a video about it, but I sat on it because I wanted to see if anyone else was going to talk about this. Did any of you hear about this? And it came out, it came out yesterday, June 11th. Well, this article did, but when I heard about it, I think it was a couple days ago. Do y'all see what this says? Ohio legislature is considering declaring racism a public health crisis. In layman's terms, if you are declared to be a racist or deemed to be a racist, we'll just chop it up to it as you having a mental illness. I said, what an insult. A lot of people didn't see this. Because I didn't really see anybody do a video on it. But I knew about this a couple days ago, but I wanted to wait till today to talk about it. They are saying, they are considering, mind you, Ohio, the hub for heroin, the hub for opioids. Well, that now that I say that, it all makes sense. Because, you know, when it comes to them, that opioid plague, they want to say, you know, give them all kinds of assistance that they wasn't giving black folks during the crack era. They say they want to declare racism a public health crisis. Let me read some of this because this is my first time actually reading this. It says the wheels are in motion to declare racism a public health crisis in Ohio. If a state Senate resolution passes, Ohio will become the first state to declare racism a public health crisis. Those who support the resolution say this is a step in the right direction, but others say this is all talk because the resolution is non-binding. When you get all the people at the table that has a sphere of influence in one of those categories, then we can start to getting to the meat of what it does to take to do what we need to do. Thomas says when it comes to addressing racism, first you need to get everyone on the same page. That's why he's co-sponsoring Senate Resolution 14. If passed, it would direct Governor Mike DeWine to create a task force to promote racial equality. Thomas says legislation will then become from those discussions with stakeholders. You have to understand the problem is so broad and involves your business community, your clergy, your government. Obviously, police officers, the police community has to be at the table. Just reading that alone, basically what it's saying is they're trying their hardest to let racists walk or to slide on by when they commit racist acts. Not just simply saying racist things like the N-word or anything like that, but committing an actual racist physical act. Anti-hero said, in a way, racism is a mental illness. You have to be sick in the head to think that way. Here's the thing. They're banking that people are that they want it to be declared to be a quote unquote mental illness, because then that will give them justification to do what they do. This is no different than when a white person kills a black person and they deem them mentally incompetent even though you know that they're racist. That's what this is going to do. This is not a good thing. Just imagine, let me put this into perspective. Just imagine if South Carolina brought this up back in 2015 before Dylan Roof did what he did. Guess where he would be at right now? In a mental hospital, probably. If that. Wasn't he a racist? Or isn't he one? Exactly, Miss Cardio Queen. It lets them off the hook. And Dylan Roof isn't the only one they tried it with. They tried it with plenty of others. Some were successful. But yeah, see, they banking that we don't talk about this. Like I said, this right here, the reason why many of you probably didn't see this is because they only mentioned it like one time. I only seen them talk about this one time, and that was the day that I saw it. After that, I didn't see it again. Exactly, NW. A Klansman could claim crazy and get a check. They would abuse the heck out of this this whatever. That's all I can call it. This whatever. And you know how much PC loves to claim mentally ill. That's what that John Lee Coward tried to do with the Nia Wilson situation, but it didn't work in his favor. And by the way, I'm checking daily to see what his sentence is going to be, but they haven't done anything. They were supposed to sentence him, was it last week? But I haven't heard anything since, I saw about what they were trying to do with his sentencing. But I'm constantly checking, and the minute I find out what he got, I'm definitely going to bring that to you. And like I said, it's like a domino effect. All they would have to do is start with one state, see how it goes, and then if it works in their favor, other states are going to be lined right up like they about to head to the soup kitchen with their hand and bowl held out in front of them, waiting for their turn. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that to you because, like I said, some of you weren't aware of that. Let me move on to this next story right here. Now, this story actually involves an individual. I think I only saw one person talk about it. I think I only saw one person talk about it. Okay. So right here, you have a picture of a young lady by the name of Kinjanae Hooper. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Her name is Kinjanae Hooper. And she is a high school graduate. And she has like some of the best grades in the school. I don't know if she's valedictorian or not. But this is another one of those hair discrimination stories. So she was set to graduate and everything like that. Still did, as far as I know. But one of the administrators of the school was not willing to let her graduate because of her braids that you see on her head right here. Like, these are recent pictures of her. Even during I guess you can say, a pandemic where these students is bad enough, they can't even have the typical traditional graduation. But now you're still doing the hair discrimination thing because of her braids. And I want to say, and sure, and I was gonna, you know what, I was going to say, I want to say this was in Texas, and sure enough, when I looked at another picture, it was in Texas, just like I thought it was. Now y'all know what happened last year. Was it last year where you had that black boy with the locks, and they discriminated against him and tried not to let him graduate because of his locks? I mean, I've done so many hair discriminatory stories on my channel. It's not even funny. Yes, Rap God, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like I said, and like I said, this young woman right here, this young lady right here, had awesome grades. Like I said, I don't know if she was valedictorian, but they, based on what they were saying, they said that she had she was basically damn near a straight A student. But that didn't matter. It didn't matter that she was involved with her school, and everything like that. They were just mad because of her braids. I see absolutely nothing wrong with her braids. They're very neat. But they just had to find something to pick on her with. And I think, to be honest, it extended further than just the braids. In my honest opinion, I think it went even further than just her hair. That's just the hair, that's just the cover that they give. But I think at the end of the day, she ended up graduating. But I would have found a way to sue whoever that was who tried to hinder me from graduating. Because I think it was another story a couple years ago that I talked about. They tried to hinder this black boy because he had cornrows or locks or something like that. And I think he was the valedictorian, and they wasn't even going to let him get up there and speak. Like, they embarrassed him in front of the entire school. And I think that happened in some southern state. I want to say that happened in Texas. I don't know what it is with people in Texas and black hair and what they have against it. You're right, it is jealousy. It is jealousy. Why do you think in the workplace they try their best to try to make your hair look as European as possible? The fact that they even had to pass a law in California, the anti-hair discrimination law, where basically you cannot make these type of statements against people, especially those of melanin, who have a certain type of hair texture. They had to pass that as a law in California. And I think they kind of touched on it a little bit in Jersey. But the fact that they had to make that into a law says a lot. And that law, I think, got passed last year. That basically says you cannot discriminate against said person because of their hair. Because people have lost jobs behind this. I've done videos where this one girl who was in Canada working, and she tried to, was working up there, and she did her training and everything like that. And on the last day of her training, she decided to wear her hair in its natural state. And whoever the manager was ended up letting her go before she even officially started. Another one, she ended up getting fired from her job because of her braids. Little boys had parts cut into their hair, and they accused them of being a part of gangs. So it's almost like it's par for the course. It's unfortunate. I'm about to actually touch on my. It's going to probably segue into my last discussion. It's the reason why I saved this one for last, because I think this is the one I'm being very vocal about. Hold on. All right. So this is probably going to be the last topic I discuss, and it's going to have layers to it. So recently, I don't know if you saw it or not, but Willie D just recently did a video. And by the way, this is a picture. These are various pictures of Chicago right here. Willie D just recently did a video in which it was talking about how in the city of Chicago, they said like something about like the first time in 60 years, there was like 18 murders in 24 hours and something like that. And I said, oh, here they go. Here they go. I said, there it is. There it is. They doing that crap again. So I entertained it or whatever, and I was like, none of this makes any sense. It all goes back to the same narrative that I've been talking about for so long. So basically, they said all these murders happen and everything like that. They claim they have these victims, but they still have no suspects. I'm like, Chicago must not have any working surveillance cameras there. Because people say that they have surveillance cameras, but they must not have any that work. And I said, this is not black people doing this. I said it over and over and over again, and I'm going to stand by that. I said, this is the work of these terrorists, these Chicago PD terrorists. They go on my list as some of the most corrupt departments as well. And I'm headed somewhere with this, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So they claim they did all of this stuff. I said, and I had left a comment on Willie D's channel. If y'all follow him, you probably saw my comment. I said, this is not black people doing this. I said, people actually believe it is black people doing this. I said, you can do one of two things. You can buy the bridge in Brooklyn for free, or you can go on that Brooklyn bridge and jump off of it. Remember, this is the same Chicago that has been known to leave crates filled with guns in alleyways in hopes that people will grab them and just start shooting each other. This is the same Chicago that a couple years ago put a bait truck with shoes in it in hopes that black people would go there and steal from it so they would have a reason to go and arrest them. And they got caught on camera. As a matter of fact, if I did a video about that, you can actually go on YouTube and look it up. That video is still there. And the brothers out there, the more older ones, well, they weren't that old, but they were probably around my age at the time, basically was saying, wait, where did this truck come from? And they actually saw the cops parked at the corner waiting to catch them. But they went and confronted them, and all those cops could do was walk to their car and drive off with their heads hanging in shame. And I've always heard how Chicago is such a very segregated city. I've always heard that. I've always heard that Chicago is very, very segregated. I've heard that from multiple people who are from or live in Chicago. Exactly, Miss Cardio Queen. That term is called entrapment. With the bait truck, that's called entrapment. But I believe they do that in many cities, but I think Chicago is very, very well known to do that. But I found that to be very interesting. But I'm going to show y'all something that is going to blow your mind. When I saw this today, I have to admit, it kind of caught me off guard, but it didn't surprise me. Hopefully my screen hurry up and loads. Let me see. I want y'all to look at this image right here on your screen. Look at this picture that you see on your screen right here. I had to open up another image. Does anybody know what they're looking at right now? Put a 1 in the chat if you know what you are looking at right now on your screen. That's another. I'm glad you said that too, Quasi. It's also been shown that they go into these neighborhoods and they switch and they dress like they're from there, like they from the hood, wear these masks and everything to pretend like they're black. That's another thing that they like to do as well. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of ones, so y'all know what this is. Good, y'all are caught up. If y'all don't know what this picture is, this is a picture of well, I don't know if all 13 are in here, but it's 13 cops from Chicago that broke in to Bobby Rush's, and we know who Bobby Rush is. They broke into Bobby Rush's office and just sat there and lounged while everybody was outside uprising. Yes, you have one on his phone. You got this guy on the couch sleeping. You got two looking out the window. One has his head on the two have their head on the desk. And they're just right there chilling, looking at the chaos ensue outside. Now, mind you, they went into this office. They broke in. They weren't supposed to be there. Yes, Miss Cardio Queen, they had 5 hours of surveillance footage of them just chilling for 5 hours. They were basically doing what you call stealing time. Stealing time is basically what they're doing right now. You're on the clock and you're not doing your job. They are literally supposed to be out there guarding businesses and preventing people from looting and everything like that. But they're in the office, knocked out on their phone, watching, and it is 5 hours of surveillance footage of them doing this. And it was 13 of them there. And right, Arthur, and popped his popcorn. So they was eating his food. And this happened in Chicago. So if this was going on during the quote unquote looting and rioting, this happened 2 weeks ago. This didn't just happen because there hasn't been any rioting or looting in the last week or two. So this happened the week George Floyd was murdered. And we're just learning about it today. But when it came to David Dorn, they were trying to really go in on that story, but they weren't talking about that. I want the people who went in about David Dorn and that fake outrage around his death. I want to see them have the same energy with this right here. But they're not going to. I want to see if they're going to have that same energy. Look at this. Police lounge napped in congressman's office for hours as looters destroy Southside businesses, video shows. Police officers relaxed in Representative Bobby Rush's Inglewood office early June 1st. Video shows officers napping and making popcorn in the Southside Congressman's office while looters destroyed local businesses nearby, Representative Bobby Rush and Mayor Lori Lightfoot said. Appreciate you, the Aquarian Space, and salute to you. And if that's not amazing, let me see if I can find this right here. Let me go to another window. Since they want to talk about looting and everything like that, because there were plenty of images where cops were out there looting themselves. Here you have one. This guy right here. Look at this guy. He couldn't be more obvious. Out there with a whole Modell's bag. What's that? A Nike shoebox? Is that Nike? I think that's Nike. And some other items. But they'll have you to believe that all the looting was done by us. What was it that the Bride of Chucky lookalike said? I'm talking Linda Hogan, that all the looters were Afro-American. Those were her words. I talked about her last week. And these are not doctored images. They'll try to make you believe that it is. But it's not. Then you had the undercover ones like that Jacob Peterson who was up in Minneapolis with all that gear on and taking a hammer and knocking out the windows, and he got exposed by his ex-wife. But they ain't going to talk about this. They are not going to talk about this. That's why you got me. That's why you got Voices of the New Black Media on the case. But yeah, they are not slick. They are not low. They out there being dirty, just as bad and dirty as everybody else. But they trying to act like their hands is clean. You work for one of the most corrupt police departments. There's no way. It's no way. You hear that, Michael Mirror? This is why we call you thugs and criminals and animals. Not just because of how you treat us, but because of how you treat everybody. But especially how you treat us. Some of y'all do each other dirty. Quiet as it's kept. Senior 34 said he's not looting, he's liberating those items from the looters. Let them tell it. That's that story they will go with. Excuse me. But yeah, they aren't slick. They are not slick. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream right here. I've been on for about 2 hours. That's why I'm trying to keep my time on here. at the 2-hour time length when it comes to these live streams from 4 to 6 every Friday, as long as I'm not busy at that time. But I appreciate everybody for coming through. Shout out to the people who hit the Cash App. Shout out to the people who donated through Super Chat. Shout out to everybody who just came through. Another Friday live stream down. Many more to go. Make sure y'all share this stream with others. Make sure that notification bell is turned on because I think they tampered with my stuff again. As a matter of fact, I know they did. Make sure you are subscribed because they may unsubscribe you. And that's pretty much it. We will be back to our regular scheduled programming tomorrow. And I will talk to you then.